All right, buckle up everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into a story that's unfolding right now. A story that could, well, rewrite the rules of the global game as we know it.
Yeah.
We're talking about Brics, and, no, not the kind you use for construction. This Brics is an alliance. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Already a powerful economic bloc, shaking things up. But hold on to your hats, folks. Things are about to get a whole lot more interesting with 4 new members joining the party in 2025.
And it's not just about the numbers, just adding more countries to the mix. This expansion, it brings in Iran, Ethiopia, the UAE, and Argentina. Each one adds a whole new layer of complexity to this geopolitical landscape we're trying to navigate.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. We've got this alliance, they're aiming to reshape the global order, and now they're adding some, well, let's be honest, some serious heavy hitters to their roster. So what's the big picture here?
The big picture. The big picture is a potential power shift, a shift away from that, the traditional Western-dominated system we've all gotten used to. Think about it. The combined GDP of this expanded BRICS, it's going to rival, maybe even surpass that of the G7. But it's not just about economic size, right? It's about challenging the established order, challenging the dominance of, the big one, the U.S. dollar.
Yes, de-dollarization.
Yeah.
Buzzword of the moment, it seems. Now, for our listeners who, maybe haven't been following every twist and turn of this economic saga, can you give us a quick explainer on what de-dollarization actually means?
Sure. De-dollarization. In the simplest terms, it's about reducing reliance on the U.S. dollar. Think international trade, finance, all those big transactions. Countries are looking at alternatives,
Right.
alternative currencies, different payment systems, ways to conduct business without needing the U.S. dollar as much. If this succeeds, it could really diminish U.S. influence on the global stage.
And didn't former President Trump even specifically warn other countries against, going down this path? Seems like that adds another layer of intrigue to this whole situation, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It highlights just how sensitive this issue is. How much is at stake here? Imagine a world where oil, historically always traded in dollars, is suddenly being exchanged using other currencies. That's the kind of change BRICS is aiming for. And trust me, it could have major implications for global markets and the whole balance of power, really.
That's fascinating. So we've got this potential for a major economic shakeup, and now each of these new BRICS members, well, they bring their own strengths and weaknesses to the table. Let's dive into some specifics here, starting with, let's say, Iran. Massive oil reserves, strategic location, but also, a somewhat unpredictable foreign policy and, of course, those tensions with the West. How do they fit into this new world order vision? Iran's inclusion, well, it's arguably the most significant. Those oil reserves, they give them serious leverage. They could, for instance, start demanding payment for oil in currencies other than the U.S. dollar. Push other oil-producing nations to follow suit. That would be a major blow to the dollar's dominance, let's be honest.
It's a power play for sure. And it seems like they're eager to, challenge the current U.S.-led system. But what about the risks? They do bring a certain level of, volatility to the mix, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Iran's history with the West, those tensions, they could definitely create some friction within BRICS, especially with members like India, who have those close ties to the U.S. And then there's the sanctions, right? If those stay in place, it could really limit Iran's ability to fully participate in the bloc's economic activities.
So potential is there, but
Yeah.
also potential for, let's say, some drama. Now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk Ethiopia, one of Africa's fastest growing economies, and its inclusion, well, it feels symbolic, doesn't it? Symbolic of Africa's rising influence on the world stage.
It's a good point. Ethiopia's addition, it aligns with BRICS's focus on, what they call South cooperation, basically strengthening ties between developing nations. The goal is to, foster economic growth, reduce reliance on those traditional Western powers. They see Ethiopia as a key partner in, expanding their footprint in Africa. And Africa, let's face it, it's a continent just brimming with economic potential.
It's a smart move for BRICS, really, to court a continent with such vast resources, such a rapidly growing population. But Ethiopia faces its own internal challenges too, right? Political instability, ethnic tensions, all of that.
You're right, those challenges could hinder Ethiopia's ability to really capitalize on its BRICS membership. But on the other hand, being part of this alliance, it could provide them with, much needed economic support, maybe even the political clout to address some of those internal issues. It's a two-way street. The success of this partnership, it's going to depend on navigating these complexities.
Speaking of navigating complexities, let's talk about the UAE, a powerhouse in finance and technology, no doubt. But they also have strong ties with the West. That seems like, I don't know, a tricky balancing act. How do they fit into this whole vision of a BRICS-led New World Order?
The UAE, they're a fascinating addition. They bring this unique blend of, well, of economic power, of cultural diversity, and a really forward-looking approach to finance, really. They were early adopters of, things like cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology. They could play a crucial role in shaping BRICS's digital financial strategy, I think.
It's almost like they're a bridge, isn't it? A bridge between the old guard and the new, embracing innovation while still maintaining those close ties with the West.
Exactly, precisely. And that makes them, well, a valuable asset for BRICS, I'd say. They can help the bloc navigate the complexities of the global financial system, and at the same time, potentially attract other countries who might be hesitant to completely break away from the West.
So they're like the diplomatic wing of BRICS, smoothing over those geopolitical wrinkles. Now let's talk about the wild card here. Argentina. Vast natural resources, especially lithium, right? And that's essential for everything these days. All our tech gadgets, electric cars, you name it.
Argentina, under President Javier Milei, they're a bit unpredictable.
Yeah.
Which adds another layer of intrigue to their inclusion, I think. They've got the potential to be a key player in global trade, especially as the demand for lithium just skyrockets.
It's like they're holding this winning lottery ticket, but haven't quite figured out how to cash it in yet. Their economic volatility, that's a concern, isn't it?
Yes, that's the big question mark, I think. Can they overcome, those historical struggles with inflation, with debt? Can they capitalize on this vast potential they have? If they can stabilize their economy, become a reliable partner within BRICS, then they could become a major player on the global stage. But that remains to be seen, doesn't it?
Okay, so we've got this alliance, ambitious goals, diverse group of new members, and the potential to really, reshape the global landscape. But let's be realistic for a second. This isn't a guaranteed win, is it? What are some of the major hurdles they might face trying to achieve this vision of a new world order?
Well, first hurdle, I think, is internal. Bringing together such a diverse group of countries, different political systems, different economic priorities, even historical rivalries in some cases. It's no easy feat.
Yeah, it's like trying to herd cats, right?
Yep.
They've got to find that common ground, figure out how to work together effectively.
Exactly. They'll need to establish clear goals that benefit all members, and they need to build trust, overcome any lingering suspicions or tensions. I mean, how do you reconcile the interests of a country like India with its strong ties to the U.S. with those of Iran who are actively seeking to, diminish U.S. influence?
That's a really good point. And let's not forget about the external pressures, too. The West, they're not just going to sit back and watch as their dominance fades away, are they?
Yeah.
What kind of pushback might BRICS face from those traditional powers?
We've already seen some hints, haven't we? Remember those warnings from, the former president about de-dollarization? That's just the tip of the iceberg, I think. They could face economic sanctions, political isolation, maybe even attempts to, undermine their unity from within.
It's a high-stakes poker game, really.
Yeah.
And the stakes just keep getting higher with every hand. BRICS needs a solid strategy, not just to navigate those internal challenges, but also to counter those external pressures.
Oh, absolutely. It's about carefully managing relationships with other countries, building alliances, and anticipating, potential moves from their opponents. It's a delicate balancing act, for sure. And any misstep, it could have significant consequences.
So it's not just about economic power then. It's about political savvy, strategic thinking. This de-dollarization idea, it sounds pretty radical when you really think about it. What would a world with less reliance on the U.S. dollar actually look like? How would it affect, everyday people?
That's a complex question, far-reaching implications, really. For starters, we could see greater volatility in, currency markets. The value of the dollar could fluctuate more dramatically, affecting prices of goods and services globally.
So our morning coffee might get more expensive.
It's possible, yeah. But it could also create opportunities. Countries might be less susceptible to, U.S. economic policies, sanctions. It could give them more freedom to chart their own course.
Yeah.
We might even see the emergence of new financial centers shifting that balance of economic power.
It's almost like a domino effect, isn't it? One change triggers a cascade of other changes across the globe. But wouldn't a world with multiple currencies, multiple financial centers, wouldn't that be more chaotic?
Right.
Less stable?
That's the fear a lot of people have, but it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion. The key is to manage this transition carefully, minimize disruption, foster cooperation. Brics, they'll need to establish clear rules, transparent systems, and strong institutions to, regulate this new multipolar financial landscape.
So it's not just about tearing down the old system, it's about building a new one that's better, more equitable, more stable. But let's face it, change can be scary, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as the global financial system.
That's understandable. People have concerns. It's natural, but it's important to remember that the current system, well, it's not perfect either. It has its flaws, its inequalities, its vulnerabilities. Maybe a multipolar world, even with its potential challenges, could lead to a more balanced and inclusive global order.
So we're not talking about, a utopia or anything, but rather a different way of doing things, one with its own set of challenges and opportunities. It's like navigating uncharted waters, isn't it? We don't know exactly where it will lead, but the journey itself, that's what's fascinating.
That's a great analogy, and I think that's the key takeaway here. We're witnessing a historic shift in global power dynamics. And the outcome, well, it's far from certain. It's up to all of us to stay informed, to engage in these discussions, and to help shape the future we want to see.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the potential risks and rewards, the global implications of this whole de-dollarization idea. But let's bring it back to those 4 new BRICS members for a moment. We've talked about their individual strengths and weaknesses, but how do you see their roles, evolving within this expanded alliance?
Well, each member, they bring a unique perspective, a unique set of capabilities. They're like pieces on a chessboard. And how they're positioned, how they're utilized, well, that will determine the outcome of the game.
Let's start with Iran. They seem to be the most vocal about challenging the West, pushing for this new world order.
Iran, with those oil reserves, that strategic location, they have the potential to be a major disruptor. They would lead the charge on de-dollarization, forge alliances with other oil-producing nations, really shift away from the U.S. dollar in those energy markets.
They're almost like the rebel leader, aren't they? Rallying the troops against the established powers. But they also have to be careful, right? Not to alienate other members who might not be as eager for that confrontation.
Exactly. Iran needs to play its cards carefully, build consensus within BRICS, while also, leveraging its strengths to advance its own interests. It's a delicate balancing act, that's for sure.
Now, how about Ethiopia? They seem like the rising star, eager to prove themselves on the world stage.
Ethiopia represents, I think, Africa's growing economic and political clout. They'll likely focus on strengthening trade ties within BRICS, attracting investment, advocating for policies that benefit developing nations.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're here, we're ready to contribute, and we're not afraid to, speak up for what we believe in.
Exactly. They'll be a voice for the global South, pushing for a more equitable and inclusive global order.
What about the UAE? They seem to be playing a different game altogether, embracing innovation, technology, while still maintaining those close ties with the West.
The UAE, they're the wild card, the innovator, the bridge builder. They could leverage their, financial expertise, their technological prowess to develop new financial systems, new platforms, things that facilitate trade and investment within BRICS, maybe even create a digital currency for the bloc. Who knows?
It's like you're saying, we can work with both sides, embrace new ideas, and help build a better future for everyone.
Precisely. They're not afraid to challenge the status quo, but they're also pragmatic. They understand the importance of collaboration.
Now, what about Argentina? They've got so much potential, but also so much uncertainty.
Argentina is a wild card in a different sense. They have the resources, the talent, the ambition to be a major player. But their success, it hinges on their ability to overcome those economic and political challenges.
It's like they're holding all the right cards, but haven't quite figured out how to play them yet. If they can get their act together, they could be a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Their lithium reserves alone, that gives them a strategic advantage in a world that's increasingly reliant on, electric vehicles, renewable energy technologies. If they can create a stable and predictable investment environment, they could attract a flood of foreign capital, become a major player in that global energy transition.
Okay, so we've got these 4 new members, each with their own unique role to play, their own set of challenges to overcome, their own potential to contribute to this new world order that BRICS is envisioning.
And their success or failure, well, it will ultimately determine the fate of BRICS and its impact on the global landscape.
It's like a grand experiment, isn't it? Unfolding right before our eyes. We're witnessing history in the making, and the outcome.
Well, it's far from certain.
And that's what makes it so fascinating to observe and analyze. The next few years, they're going to be crucial in determining whether BRICS can truly reshape the global order, or whether the old guard will manage to hold on to their power. All right, so we've covered a lot, haven't we? From like the why behind BRICS expanding to the potential hurdles and the possibilities it opens up. But let's zoom out for a minute. Big picture time. What does this all mean for, I don't know, for the future of global power? Are we really on the verge of this new world order everyone's talking about?
That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one of those questions that doesn't have a simple answer. The future, well, it's never really predetermined, is it? It's more like, I don't know, like a tapestry, woven from all these threads of decisions, actions, and just unforeseen events, you know?
No crystal ball predictions then.
Afraid not, no. But what we can do is analyze the trends, look at the potential scenarios, maybe glean some insights into those forces that are shaping the future.
Okay, so let's play what if for a minute. What if BRICS actually achieves these ambitious goals? What if this de-dollarization thing gains traction and this multipolar world they're envisioning? What if it actually starts to take shape?
Well, in that scenario, we could see a more balanced, distribution of power globally. Emerging economies, they'd have a greater say in those international institutions we hear so much about. And the global financial system, well, it wouldn't be so reliant on the U.S. dollar anymore.
So it's not just about BRICS, like gaining power, right? It's about other countries having more autonomy, more freedom to pursue their own interests without being beholden to the West, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagine a world where developing countries have more leverage in those trade negotiations, where they can, access financing without having to jump through all these hoops, all those conditions imposed by Western institutions. It could be a game changer, especially for global development, poverty reduction, all of that.
It does sound, pretty promising. But couldn't this shift also lead to more instability? I mean, if you've got multiple power centers all vying for influence, wouldn't that just increase the risk of conflict?
It's a valid concern. The transition to a multipolar world, it's going to be complex. There will be challenges, no doubt. The key is, I think, for BRICS to establish those clear rules of engagement, build strong institutions to manage those disagreements, those inevitable disagreements, and really foster a spirit of cooperation, not just competition.
So it's not just about like challenging the existing order. It's about creating a new one that's more stable, more equitable, and ultimately more beneficial for everyone.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that requires a fundamental shift in mindset, not just from, BRICS nations, but from the West as well. They need to accept that the world is changing and that a multipolar system, maybe it's a little less predictable, but it can also be more inclusive, more representative of all those diverse interests out there in the global community.
It's like we're moving from, I don't know, a solo act to an orchestra, right?
Yep.
Each instrument, it has its own unique voice, but they need to learn to play together in harmony to create that beautiful symphony.
I love that analogy. It really captures the challenge and the potential of this multipolar world we're talking about.
But let's be real for a second. There's always a chance, right, that this grand experiment, it could fail. What happens if BRICS can't, I don't know, overcome its internal divisions? Or withstand the pressure from the West?
Well, in that case, we might just see, I don't know, a continuation of the status quo.
Yeah.
With the West holding on, clinging to its dominance even as the tides are shifting. Or we could see a more fragmented world, different blocs competing, leading to more tensions, more instability. It's not a great scenario.
So the stakes they're pretty high. The choices that BRICS makes, the choices that the West makes, all the players on this global stage, those choices have a real impact on the future, on all our futures.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for you, the listener, to be aware of these developments, to understand the complexities, and to engage in those thoughtful discussions about the kind of world we want to create.
And this is where it gets, really interesting, because it's not just about observing from a distance. These global shifts, they have the potential to impact our lives in very real ways.
Think about it. Changes in global trade, well, that could affect the things you buy, the cost of goods and services. Those shifts in the financial system, they could impact your investments, your savings, even your job security. And the rise of new powers, well, that's going to shape cultural trends, technological advancements, the very fabric of this interconnected world we live in.
So it's not just some abstract geopolitical game then. It's about the future we're all building together. And the choices we make today, well, those choices, they determine the course of that future.
Exactly. It's about being informed, being engaged, and being proactive in shaping the world we want to live in.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this expanded BRICS alliance. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've learned a lot. We've explored those motivations, the challenges, the potential outcomes, and the implications for all of us, really. But as with any deep dive, we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore, to analyze, to debate. And the beauty of it is that the story's still being written.
Yeah.
The future of BRICS, the future of the global order, it's all unwritten.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. The future, well, it's not a spectator sport. It's a participatory event. Stay informed, stay curious, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Yeah.
Because the world, it's changing, and it's up to all of us to shape the direction of that change.